Hey, Paul here with All Nations Soccer Club. It's mid-March 2026, and it's a great privilege to have Teal Bunbury here. Thank you for coming, Teal, and thank you for talking to us. And with All Nations Soccer Club, we've been doing a series on mentors and great mentors in my life, and I've gone through a few of those. And Amir talked about one of the great mentors in his life, and today we have Teal Bunbury, and he's going to talk about one of the mentors in his life, and I'll ask a few questions. And you guys think of some questions, but while he's talking, please think about great mentors in your lives, because it's arrogant to think that we got to where we're at on our own. You know, God has given us the gift of great mentors in our lives, and these make a big difference. And so that's what I want to talk about, and have you guys talk about your mentors. But today, it's a great privilege to have Teal Bunbury. Give him a hand, and thank you for interrupting your play, and we can play a little later if you want. But go ahead, Teal, tell us about the great mentor in your life.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. I want to start off, I love seeing all the guys that come out here to play. There's nothing better than kicking the soccer ball around with good guys, good competition, building each other up, and like you were saying earlier, kind of getting into some nice tackles and whatnot, being competitive. So when I think of that, I think of so many stages in my life, having different mentors. And to me, a mentor is kind of a role model, someone you look up to, someone they can put their arm around you, that has experiences in their lives that they can share with you to make sure you don't fall into those pitfalls that, you know, so many of us can be susceptible to. You know, when I was younger, it was my dad who I looked up to. As I grew, you know, it was different coaches in my life. So there's so many that I can kind of pick out, and I'm sure so many of us can pick out different mentors, but one that sticks to me was when I was 24, and I was playing professional soccer. I was playing in New England, so living in Boston, and our team chaplain, his name was Walt Day, a massive impact in my life, and it made such a big difference on me on a personal level, with my wife at the time, with our future kids that we had, playing the game, and just as a human being. I think a lot of times when we think of mentors, it's someone that has to be, you know, in a position of power, or someone that has done so many things in life. But a lot of times it's someone who will just take time with you, someone who will put their arm around you, someone who shows that they want to help your life. And Walt Day, for me, was that mentor. He instilled in me so much confidence in myself, where he made me realize my faith in Christ. So everything for me kind of is centered around my rock, my foundation in Christ. But he was able to bring that out of me, and more so not just walking the walk or talking the talk, but it was out there doing different things and different outreaches. But Walt was someone who was always motivating me to, okay, how can I improve outside of just being someone who's known as kicking the soccer ball around? A lot of times my identity might have been tied up in, okay, am I playing on the weekend? Am I scoring goals? Is the coach pumping me up? Are the fans uplifting me? But when that stuff wasn't happening, he's like, okay, what are you going to fall back on? Are you going to try to fall back on yourself? And I had to think about that a lot. And it all came back to, okay, who Christ is, who Christ says that I am. You know, he says that I'm loved and he cares for me. He's got a plan for me. And he did something special with me. He would meet with me weekly. You know, he spent time with me. So he would talk about his upbringing and share his experiences of, you know, how tough it was early on in different relationships that he had. And that's something that he could teach me to, okay, how can I be a better husband to my wife? And this was even before we got married to, you know, my girlfriend and my son over there, his mommy, who was just incredible. But he helped me a lot with patience, with being selfless, with making sure I put others, you know, first before myself. A lot of times my mental health as well. As being an athlete, you can get pushed and pulled in so many different directions. And he would just sit down with me and take the time. For me, the most important was just taking the time. Because when someone sacrifices their time, that's something that really isn't quantifiable a lot of times, where they'll go out of their way. He's working, he's got different things to do. He's like, you know what, let me just stick around with Teal and let me talk to him for 30 minutes, share some stories about how challenging it can be. Yeah, hey, how challenging it can be as an athlete. He also was a chaplain for the Patriots and the Red Sox, and so he had all these experiences with these kind of big name guys, and it all rooted down to him just being available to them. So we wanted to make sure he was available to me, and I think I try to do that, is emulate that with others and with young people, is just try to find somebody in your life that can be a mentor. It doesn't have to be someone that you think is unattainable. It could be a best friend. It can be a father figure. It could be a teammate. It could be a coach, a teacher, whoever. But if someone's there putting their hand out for you, I say jump on board and try to listen to that person. Try to take those words in. And you'll learn a lot. And I learned a lot about how to be a man, how to be a leader in my house, how to share God's love, most importantly. For me, it was how do I share God's love in the locker room? And a lot of times I thought I had to go around and preach to everybody. And the most important thing was, no, they need to see how you're living your life. When a lot of my teammates were doing different things, I was like, you know what, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay confident in who I am. And Walt taught me a lot of how to be myself and be, faithful to Christ and not be, warped into the, professional athlete lifestyle. And that's what helped me a lot. So I know you probably got a lot of questions. That was a lot of info, but mentors, I believe, are extremely important in our lives. It doesn't matter how old you are. I think you're always going to need someone that you can kind of lean on, get information from, and learn from. And then you, in turn, will try to be a mentor to other people too, because so many people have helped you.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. So with Walt, was it the things he said, or was it the way he acted? Was it caught or was it taught? That's kind of where I'm going on the question.
I think it was a little bit of both.
Yeah. What was his marriage like? What were these? What did you notice?
So for him, he wasn't married, but he was someone who had done marriage counseling for many years, and he had worked with athletes and non-athletes. He worked with people in the professional corporate 500 businesses, and he was able to relay God's message of a husband's duty, a wife's duty, and just like loving Christ, and how you love Christ is how you love your wife, and becoming one flesh. And a lot of it was about how selfless I could be, where I got to make sure I'm making the time for my wife and not making it all about me. No matter what I was doing, I had to make sure, how can I help her? How can I serve her? So she's seeing that I'm loving her, I'm caring for her, no matter how maybe tired I am and work. And that was one of his things, was make time for her. And don't think just because your job, whatever it is, that you're too preoccupied with that. Because a lot of times wives just want you to be present with them. So that was something that I worked on, and something that he helped me a lot with. It was being available was a big thing for him. He would always stay on top of me with sending me text messages, calling me, wanting to meet one-on-one, doing discipleship. We would do a lot of Bible studies. So I think that entwined with just how he cared for me, checking in on me, making sure I was doing all right, asking me, okay, what's on your mind? Just even when I thought I was doing all right, he'd say, hey, what's on your mind? And the more I started talking to him, I'd say, oh, maybe these things were kind of hidden, and sometimes we suppress some things, and I was able to kind of bring those out with him.
Now, I grew up in Boston for 30 years, and I noticed that it's not like Tennessee. People don't read their Bibles and go to church like they do here. And so what was it like with the professional athlete lifestyle and this sort of culture clash with you and Walt and the other Christians on the team? What did that cold front look like?
Yeah, it was interesting, because a lot of times when I explain people, when I lived up there, I'm originally from Minnesota. I was born in Canada but moved around a lot, but Minnesota's kind of my home base, and that's like the Midwest, laid back, everybody's friendly. Up in the Northeast, it's a little different. Some people are a little more cold at the beginning. It just takes some time to kind of break that down, but once you break that down, they're so caring and so welcoming. So with Walt there, it was really helpful for me and my wife to adapt to a new place that we were living in. And when we were talking about the gospel of, what Christ did for us, ultimately for us, he was like, hey, let's start doing some outreaches. So we started doing, back to school with the team that I was playing for, which was the Revolution. So we started doing that. We started doing something called Teal's Turkey Club, which was around Thanksgiving, partnering with the Providence Rescue Mission. So we were trying to just do it in ways where it wasn't us just, preaching to people, but it was like, hey, let's get involved. And ultimately the message was just, hey, we just want to spread God's love. And that was it. It was just, they saw us in the community, they saw us being involved, and then my teammates were able to see that. And they said, okay, maybe next year we can come to that. And more of them started coming. More of them started coming to chapel and Bible study. So it was a lot about your, not just being available, but it was a lot of just like, hey, making sure when people were ready to say, hey, I want to help out, that you were saying, hey, jump on board. Anybody can come and help. It doesn't matter what walk of life you're in.
Yeah. Did you see a lot of your teammates change their hearts and their minds and think about life more deeply?
Yeah, I thought they did, and it's, you know, it's great when people come to Christ, but I think it's even great when you could just, you know, get them another step closer to it. So even if they haven't confessed, you know, with their mouth that Jesus is Lord, it was nice that they were still wanting to just get involved in the community. You know, that their heart was softening and they wanted to do outreaches, and they felt whenever we would do these, they would feel the enjoyment that they would get from it. When you're helping other people, you would feel that buzz inside, and you would get excited about it. So you'd want to go on the next kind of outreach and say, you know what, I want to do that. I want to hand out, you know, boxes of food. I want to hand out turkeys. I want to go to the rescue mission and, you know, serve food to whoever. It really uplifts you and your spirit.
And I think a lot of the guys here feel that, because we have a lot of people here that are Hindus, that are Muslims, that are Buddhists, and you know, they don't identify to us as Christians, but they do identify to the good deeds that are being done. You know, when people can come and play soccer and have a great game of soccer, and then we can build a community around that, you know, that's very fulfilling and uplifting. And it's really one of the great things in life, I think. And a lot of the guys here have come to the garden ministry that we have on my farm, and they grow thousands of pounds of food for poor people and sick people that have cancer, and we grow flowers for widows. But you guys have made